Let's freaking go! LSU football fans, we are on the eve of something called the Pro Day. They do it each and every year. It is one of the most nerve-wracking days if you are a athlete trying to provide for your family for the rest of your life through this game that we all love called tackle football. That is tomorrow. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to continue to chat about the viral thing from Josh Pate's show. Wow, LSU is not a top 10 program. You guys know I have strongly built myself on this brand that we love LSU, but we are also going to talk about them as objectively as we possibly can. And I just think it is farcical that LSU is not a consensus top 10 national brand in all of college football. We might not be Michael Jordan. We might not be LeBron James. We might not be Alabama or Georgia. But you better doggone consider us a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a Larry Bird, a Kobe Bryant, someone that deserves to be in the upper echelon. Might not be the upper echelon, but we're in there. Okay? Outside the top 10, really? Really? Number 12? You view us the same way people view John Stockton? Come on. You're better than that, Pate. You are better than that. Okay? Also, to start off today's show, we're going to talk about the opening at the LSU defensive line coach and the poll question that is currently attached to the live stream. Which non-coordinator position group coach is the most important? And right now, defensive line is currently winning the poll. Okay, we say hi to Rob. We say hi to Jared. We say hi to TOV. We say hi to Scooby, who actually wants to talk about what I want to talk about at the start of this live stream. I would love Carl Dunbar to be LSU's defensive line coach. I love the guy. I really do. This is a guy who's coached a lot at the NFL level and has also coached a lot at the non-NFL level. He has coached for Nick Saban as a defensive line coach. I think Nick Saban's just going to hire some schlub to be his defensive line coach? No way. Carl Dunbar from Opelousas. Carl Dunbar played at LSU. I just love him. I love his personality. I love his energy. And I think he would connect with the players immediately. And look, I may or may not know a few people that know him, but I will also say that he left for an NFL job. He has been with Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers for a long time now. And notice I say long time, it's about 4 or 5 years. That is a long time in the coaching industry. I just love him. I really do. And the thumbnail to this image is him with Jared Allen. I think for every LSU defensive line coach opening, Carl Dunbar needs to be on every list, and I don't see him on any. And look, he might not have any interest in coming back to the college game to where he doesn't have to recruit anymore. I get it. Why would a position coach ever leave for this job? Well, this is one of the rare exceptions. LSU is one of the programs. LSU, of course, is home to Carl Dunbar. So that is my personal favorite choice, but obviously there are more sensical choices that our currently college football coach is. And the most popular name is Bo Davis, who, of course, is recruiting a lot of the same guys that we're recruiting. And I know a lot of you would say, hey, look, it's not about the coaches, it's about the players. And Bo Davis would give us the best shot of getting Colin Simmons. Bo Davis would get us the best shot of giving some of these other 5 stars that are attached to this opening. So I am just going to be honest. I think Bo Davis is probably the most popular candidate for this job. But I'm a Carl Dunbar fan. I always have been, always will be. And I love the fact that former LSU Tigers oftentimes turn out to be very successful coaches. and he has turned out to be one of the best. Now, there's a lot more that I want to get into tonight, okay, including some NFL draft talk, because tomorrow is a big day for Kayshon Boutte, okay? Um, Kayshon stunk at the combine. He was probably, out of anybody at the NFL combine, the worst uh, contributor, especially relative to expectations. Okay. Now, once again, I'm living up to what I said at the beginning of the live stream. I try to be as objective as I possibly can about this team that we all love. Kayshon was abysmal at the combine, right? If you go around telling media members you're going to run 4.3 and you run 4.5, that is just crazy. It honestly is just crazy. And look, this guy is slipping in a major way. And I don't think this wide receiver class is very strong. So I'm a little shocked that Kayshon is slipping as much as I've seen him. So tomorrow is going to be a big day for him. Um, and look, I think we all have an affinity for Kayshon, right? He was a very good player here at LSU. And this isn't, anti-Kayshon channel, right? We like him. But, in this situation, we got to be honest here. There needs to be an improvement with some of these athleticism metrics, because a big part of Kayshon's game was he was a sub 11 100-meter guy coming out of high school. He is just a fantastic athlete. And coaches begin to wonder, hey, is he not the same explosive athlete as he once was with the ankle injury? Is he not the same player he was as a freshman and sophomore? So we shall see. No blocking tonight, Simper, and you were not blocked. Got to be a recruiter. I would never block any of my PHL legends. Let's see here. Skipper, good to see you. AP, good to see you. Grant Yinny, good to see you. So, here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, I will more than likely do a video on the LSU Pro Day. Okay? This is always the case. And I don't know exactly why this is. Okay? And the analytics have proven this to be true every single time I look at them. When I talk about NFLSU, right, whether it be LSU players in the pros or the NFL draft or whatnot, people just don't watch. They're not interested. Most people are just interested in the current team. That's at least what the analytics tell me. Okay, I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe it's just, the people that never really comment or whatever. But every time I do a combine video over the years or anything like that, people just don't watch. And I find this to be the most fascinating stuff. I really do. This jump from the LSU realm to the NFL realm, it is a wild jump, right? You think the SEC is fast, the NFL is faster and more cutthroat. And this is going to be crazy. I know Mike Tomlin shows up every year to LSU's Pro Day. He is known as one of the better head coaches of making the trips. And that's always really cool when you see a Hall of Fame coach just sitting right there. One of the best to do it in the modern era. And look, it's crazy. It is. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So, I like supporting our Tigers whenever they go to the NFL, right? I was, like many of you, devastated by the Foster Moreau news last week. Not only because of the sad nature of the story, but also because he's actually really good. He is actually a really good NFL tight end. And wherever he was going next, I think he was like a fantasy sleeper, right? And you guys know, I'm a big fantasy football junkie. I really am. So yeah, there's a lot of these these players that I just think are so interesting. So many LSU players go to the NFL and they play way better than what we thought. Obviously, Russell Gage is a famous example of that. And there are some LSU players that go and just don't work out. Mo Claiborne is definitely probably the most famous non-Jamarcus Russell example. But there was, Jay Russ, his issues weren't really playing, right? But that's what I find fascinating, right? It's not for everybody. And you guys hear me praise this guy all the time. And I know it's like a no duh moment, but I got to be honest here. You really, as time goes on and you see more players, come in and out of the program, you really do appreciate a guy like Patrick Peterson a lot more. You really do. Like how difficult it was for a player of that caliber who played against Julio Jones, played against AJ Green. I don't think he ever missed a game at LSU. 3-year All-American, freshman All-American, and then obviously All-American his final 2 years, and had a weird blood thing happen while he was in the NFL. And there's all these stories surrounding Patrick Peterson. We don't talk about him enough. It's like, truly this God amongst LSU legends. And it is amazing. I am honestly amazed because I just see so many players just fail. So many college guys you think for sure are just going to be all-time greats, and they can't keep it together. They can't be an adult. And that's some LSU players, and that's also just other players, right? So there you go. Let's go to Chance here. And once again, I got to shout out the Chances, the Jareds. I know Skipper missed one last week. Before I answer this question, I want to shout out my friend and yours, Jules. She just followed me on Twitter at Power Hour LSU. And we're going to do a new feature every Tuesday because you guys know I just love shouting out random modern day LSU Tigers. Every Tuesday at Power Hour LSU on Twitter, we are posting a random player. Okay, just a random player. And for the first ever edition, I actually posted 2 different players. Now, can anyone say, Jules probably knows this because she just followed me, I think, today or yesterday. Can you name the random player that we posted? I know Danny Girl keeps up with me on Twitter as well. She's not in here right now. But I posted 2. One was a player coach, and another was just a really good player at LSU. So these are going to be deep cuts. These are going to be guys. It's not going to be Patrick Peterson or Devin White or Odell Beckham Jr. Not anybody famous, but someone that really put in good work at LSU. So I want to see if someone actually saw it today, just to see it. What's up, Jordan? Good to see you. So good question here from Chance. How many Tigers get drafted? How many sign as undrafted free agents? So definitely Jere Jenkins is going to be one of the undrafted free agents. I don't think he's going to get drafted simply because he is older and also he is not a Blazer. He is just really good at football. And sometimes those guys go by the wayside. Obviously, I'm biased. Jere's one of my favorites. So I think he is going to have a good NFL career. So, you have a bunch of these fringe guys. Jarek Bernard Converse is definitely a fringe guy in terms of getting drafted or not. But, yeah, I mean, as far as certain players that are going to get drafted, okay, and there you go. Skipper actually got it right. It is Daryl Simon. We posted Daryl Simon and Daniel Graff today. Obviously, Daryl is a more famous player than Daniel Graff. But both are still not amongst the legend of LSU Tigers, right? But anyway, I'll share a Daryl Simon story later if you guys remind me. So as far as like players getting drafted, I think you got to go through the players that are for sure going to get selected in the NFL draft. Okay. That starts with BJ Ojulari. He will probably be the first player off the board. Then Kayshon. Then Jaquelin Roy is more than likely going to get drafted. Tomorrow's a big day for him. Ali Gay is going to get drafted. He is way too high on big boards for him to not get drafted. And he's also been just on the draft radar, hearing from scouts, reading reports, PFF.com, all this stuff. Ali Gay is consistently amongst the most underrated defensive ends. So those are 4 players, right, that are definitely going to get drafted. And then after that, Jay Ward is going to get drafted. He went to the Senior Bowl, so that's 5. And then it gets a little tricky, okay? I have heard different stories about Mekhi Gardner. I would bet my money on him getting selected. So that is 6, all right? Then, after that, you get into the Micah Baskervilles. Does Micah Baskerville get drafted? Once again, an older player. Was he ever an All-American? No, but he was a very, very good player. So, off-ball linebackers aren't necessarily coveted the same way that they used to be. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. I don't think Joe Fouché is going to get drafted. Kind of the same thing. Age. And Anthony Bradford. I knew I was missing somebody. He will get drafted. So that is a bare minimum 5 players that will get drafted. 4 for sure. 2 home run gazillion % locks. Okay. Kayshon and BJ Ojulari. Those are gazillion % bet your life savings. They're going to get drafted. Then after that, it's Jaquelin Roy, Ali Gay, Mekhi Gardner, and Anthony Bradford. Guys that you feel pretty comfortable will get drafted. And then it's Converse, Baskerville, Fouché. So there you go. That's probably the list right there. I think for me, there's so many things that go into, well, look, this guy is going to be a really good NFL player. And I think the most important thing is landing spot. Okay. Landing spot is everything in a lot of different situations. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't matter who you are. You got to go somewhere that you have to be. Okay. So I'm going to share with you the full list of pro day invites. Okay. And there it is right there. Okay. Expound on this a little bit more. So here are all the players that are invited to tomorrow's pro day. And it's not really an invite thing. It is everybody who was an LSU Tiger that is draft eligible will get to run through these drills. Okay. So once again, there's a lot of fringe guys on here. Sevyn Banks is more than likely not going to get selected. I could see an NFL team grabbing him in the 7th, but ironically, it is better to not go in the 7th than be a free agent and go where you want to go. Yeah, just going down this list really quickly. Kayshon for sure. Bradford, I feel really good about because his combine was so good. Gardner, I feel pretty good about, so that's 3. Then Ali Gay, you have to feel really good about that, 4. And then BJ Ojulari, 5. Jaquelin Roy, 6. Jay Ward, 7. So if I were Vegas, I think the over-under here would be set at 7, right? I think so. There is an issue, though. Okay, there is a major issue with this list. is that there are no surefire first rounders on here. Okay. I like the idea that the Thursday night of the NFL draft. So for those that don't know, okay, the NFL is allowing first round draft picks to happen on Thursday, right? So it's a Thursday night first round, Friday night second and third round, and Saturday is the rest. Okay. So for me, I am a big fan of having at least one first round pick because everybody's watching on Thursday. It is a highly watched event. And I like it when those LSU letters flash. I don't remember the last time LSU did not have a first round selection. I could go look that up really quickly. But, I think our best bet right now is BJ Ojolari, right? Before the season, if you would have told me Kayshon would have slid out of the first round, I would have slapped you in the face. I would have slapped you in the face. Okay? Because it was that much nonsense. But whatever happened has happened, and he has slid off the face of the earth. And not off the face of the earth. But he's not going to go any lower than the second round. Okay? I think the issue may not be as much Kayshon. It may be more teams have fallen in love with other guys, right? The Tennessee offense, Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt, right? Hyatt is for sure going to go before Kayshon, and Tillman, who like Kayshon was hurt this year, might also go before him. Okay. And one thing that is very interesting is, and this is going to sound crazy, but JSN, who did not play at all, Jackson Smith and Jigba, he didn't play at all. Okay. He is going to be the first receiver selected. Kayshon did play, and he fell into the second round. Now, would that still have happened if Kayshon didn't play this year? Yes, because his combine wasn't great. JSN had a really good combine. His 40 sucked, but it didn't suck, but for a player of his caliber, it kind of did. But he had a great 3-cone shuttle and all that other stuff. So, Kayshon falling out of the first round, it's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. I mean, quite literally, his first 2 years, every game he played his first 2 years as a starter on the LSU offense, he was every bit as productive as Jamar, Jets, Terrace, Jarvis. I mean, he was in that category. And going in the second round doesn't mean it's a foregone conclusion. There's a lot of players at LSU that have fallen to the second round and have had great NFL careers. Jeremy Hill, friend of the channel. And then obviously Jarvis Landry. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now, I have touched on everything that I want to touch on here at the beginning. Okay. Feel free to super chat any question under the sun. Okay. There's a lot of different things that we can discuss regarding LSU football. Okay. Got a lot of important meetings coming up, and I'm going to publicly announce this again. Okay. I am on the fence about going to Dallas this weekend for the Final Four. Okay. Obviously tickets are going to be expensive, but if someone has a way for me to purchase, a ticket at face value to go support Kim Mulkey and the Tigers, all I need is one. Let me know. Okay, please let me know, because I want to make arrangements and actually go. Okay. And I know there's some powerful people on this channel that want no other powerful people. Okay. Jordan says, I bet Dre doesn't get drafted. Interesting. Oh, you bet Dre does get drafted. 2018 was the last draft we didn't have a first rounder. Okay. First super chat goes to Kareem. Everybody show Kareem some support. Let me get some clap emojis in the chat for Kareem. Okay. Why does every Florida State fan I talk to think they will blow out LSU in week 1 next season? Ooh. Okay. Kareem, I don't know who you talk to, but obviously rational Florida State fans know that that's not going to happen. Okay? It's just not going to happen. I don't think anybody truly believes that's going to happen. I think there is a high likelihood that these teams potentially rematch in the playoffs. If, especially in the 12-team format, there would be a high likelihood that that happened. So, yeah, I think it is a very real possibility that we blow them out next year. Kidding. They're really good. They're really, really good, right? From top to bottom, they are really, really strong. Okay. Running back, they're always strong. They did lose one in the portal, but Florida State, their running backs are always going to be good. Even in those down years, Dalvin Cook was there, and he was a monster. Dalvin Cook and Cam Akers back to back. Florida State's always going to have good backs. They got the best tight ends in the portal. Notice I say ends too. They got 2 of them, one of which played in the SEC, Jaheim Bell. Offensive line is pretty solid. Alex Atkins almost won the Bros Award for, best O-line coach and offensive coordinator in the country. And they returned Jordan Travis, okay? And their receivers from the year before, okay? Not really receivers to be too scared about, but they did torch us last year, led by Johnny Wilson. Thank you so much, Aaron, for the very good super chat. I'm so excited I get to see you. Not this weekend, but the next. Let's get so, baby. And Aaron, you get to pick the next topic. Go right ahead. Pooh Bear, good to see you. Okay. So then you go to the other side of the football. Okay. Very interesting note. I did not see this. Florida State lost one of their starting edge guys to the portal today. Okay. Didn't know this. But they do have Jared Verse coming back. And he is probably the highest rated pass rusher returning because he would have gone in the first 2 or 3 rounds this year. Okay. Their defense is pretty good. They lose Jamie Robinson, their talisman, their safety, the guy that called all the shots there. And he's a really good football player. And he had a really good game against us last year. But the bottom line is they do return Jordan Travis. And that was low-key one of the best quarterback performances versus us we've ever faced. I mean, he was so good against us. Even after getting decapitated, he was that good. And yeah, we better be ready. But Kareem, it's nonsense. They're not going to blow us out. I will say, though, and you guys can come at me in the comments all you want for this, right? Because he is our head coach. But we better be more buttoned up this year for this matchup, because a big reason why we were back into it was because Florida State got very conservative versus us defensively, and we got a fumble at the 1-yard line. We better be ready to go right out of the gate. Special teams, all of it. We were not good in any facet, and in any facet of the game of football. Defensively, we're pitiful on third down. Okay, Jordan Travis is a big reason why he was great. Good offense always beats good defense, but we were not where we needed to be defensively. Offensively, we were abysmal. Once again, though, we did not have the proper offensive alignment up front for that game. And special teams, well, I'm not going to not going to bring that up, right? That's PTSD for a lot of us. Okay, so look, it's a lot of it is us. A lot of it is us. We better be ready to go. And the week 0 thing played a role. So we'll see. So Aaron super chat. Everybody throw some clap emojis up for Aaron. Okay, but it was some poor coaching on both sides, but that was, I mean, if you were to ask Brian Kelly, what is one of the worst coach games you've ever had, that could be up there, if not at number one. And that was the scary thing about it. I remember doing a podcast, right? Saying this exact thing. The biggest mismatch in this game is Mike Norvell is between the headset and Brian Kelly, who is one of the best in the country at preparation and being between the headset. And it could not have been further from the truth. And yeah, I'm sure BK still thinks about that game quite a bit. And I think that's more the reason why we're going to be fastened and ready to go for that first game. It's a good question here from Aaron. If we get Coach Davis, do you feel like we can get back to the D-line days of old? It's a very good question. It's a very good question. So let's talk about the D-line days of old, because we do romanticize with Kyle Williams and the Chad Lavallées and that defensive line with Marcus Spears, Hill, and those guys, right? And we think about, Carl Dunbar and, that 90s era, Booger McFarland and all those guys, right? And then, we also think more modern era, Tyson Jackson, Glenn Dorsey, Kirsten Pittman, and those guys. And then obviously even more modern, Arden Key, Rashard Lawrence. But yeah, Aaron makes a good point, right? Our defensive lines used to be dominant. So I think a few things have happened. Number one, offenses have evolved to where, so many offenses in the old days were still run based in the 90s, 2000s era, to where if you had the better defensive line and the deeper defensive line, you were going to win most of the games, right? And now, everything is so pass oriented, spread oriented, that, your defense needs to be more complete, and the play calling and the offense is so good now. Also, something else, Aaron, that's very important, and this isn't just a defensive line thing, it's just, an overall thing. As a quarterback, every game you feared that LaRon Landry was going to Sleepy Hollow you. Now, as a quarterback and as a receiver, you don't have to fear those things. You don't, right? It used to be that we used to look at Keyshawn Johnson like a superhero, right? Because he was never afraid to go over the middle. Keyshawn Johnson, Wes Welker. I mean, these guys would get blasted by Palomalu and these guys. And they would get right back up and still run over the middle. You don't have to fear that anymore. You don't. So, LSU's defenses, you think of Chad Jones versus Arkansas, Joe Adams. You don't, like, those kinds of hits. We're not allowed to make those hits anymore. And LSU was known as the snot bubble defense, right? We destroyed people. And now you just really can't do that, right? And that's part of it. So everything has just moved so offensive. It's hard to just win games now with your defensive lines, right? But still, I do agree, though, your overall point is very valid. And I was talking with someone I trust earlier today about this. The defensive line play for LSU this year was good. Okay. Wingo was very good. Jacqueline Roy was good. Not as great as he was the year prior, but he was good. And Ali Gay playing a new role this year was fine. Okay. Savion Jones was fine. Jacoby and Guillory was fine. Okay. His dad, Kobe, watches. So shout out to him. But we weren't deep. We were not deep. We played a high snap share. Ojulari, I was reading a scouting report yesterday from the 33rd team. And one of the things that they said was, hey, it looked as if he played an unreal amount of snaps. We were not deep. We were not deep. Okay. And that is something the LSU defensive line has always been. They have always had really deep defensive lines, right? You know, I mentioned all those names. I didn't mention Tremaine Edwards, who was a big piece on that 07 team as a backup defensive lineman. We didn't mention LeVar Edwards, right? A really good defensive lineman, war number 89, had amazing ball skills for a defensive lineman. Really solid player, not spectacular, but really solid. We didn't talk about Pep Livingston. We didn't talk about a lot of these guys. I mean, you know, there's so many talented players that had to wait their turn, right? Like Drake Nevis kind of had to wait his turn. You know, we're just not. We weren't deep last year, and you saw that Texas A&M and Georgia is just unacceptable defensive line play. It was unacceptable, and it showed. And Brian Kelly has mentioned this, which is why they got in the portal and got a bunch of these guys. Okay. But, you know, this is still a thing. Like, we can be better. We can be better. Now, this is a really good question, Aaron, because it does bring into question, can Bo Davis, if he is hired, fix this? Well, number one, you know, there is some attractiveness to coming to this job because one of his, you know, edge defensive linemen from Texas is now in LSU, and that's Ovie Oghofu, right? He is from Louisiana. Obviously, the LSU ties are there. Kind of like my number one candidate, Carl Dunbar. And the recruiting is there. But can we get back to being the force that we were on defensive lines? Yes, I think we can. I think we can, right? And then also, Aaron, some of it is just bad luck, right? So there are some players that we thought would, at this point, be contributors, or at this point, we feel 1,000% confident that they could go out there and be backup level players, and they just aren't. They just aren't. And, you know, it's a sad part about it. I want every player that chooses, doesn't matter where they're from. They could be from Opelousas. They can be from Australia. I don't care. I want every player to succeed, but not a lot of them have, especially in the trenches and on both sides of the trenches. And, you know, it's one thing if like just one player doesn't turn out to be great, like you know, most 5 stars that come to LSU turn out to be great. But there was a player by the name of Chris Davenport. I don't think a lot of you remember Chris Davenport. He was a 5-star, and he came to LSU, and he was a really good guy. I met him a few times. Really good dude. It just didn't work out. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. Wasn't a big deal because we didn't have a whole lot of other players that just didn't work out like that. These last couple of years, there has been a lot of just these things just not working out for whatever reason. And I don't know if it was bad luck, but it just didn't. So, you know, LSU is just going to have to get deeper, and hopefully Jefferson coming over from West Virginia, Parrish and those guys can be really solid players. Okay. And some of these guys, you know, it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. And that's why I'm not going to, you know, just blast somebody because it's hard Division 1 football is really freaking hard, right? You could be the absolute freakish, testy athlete with all the measurables in the world, but you can't play, and or you get an injury, or you get homesick, or something. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. And that's why, I never try to be overly critical of any one player, because it's so hard. It is so hard. I've been on the sidelines for some of these SEC games, and it's it is crazy how fast things move. It's car collisions, right? In high school, it's not like that. In high school, you're going up against an insurance salesman. You're going up against a guy that's pledging Pi Cap next year. You're not going up against adults. And in the SEC, you're going up against uh, some people will be insurance salesmen, but you're going up against freaking, you know, Cam Robinson or Glenn Dorsey lines up in front of you. I mean, it's a different specimen of athlete there. Um, so yeah, it's tough. Doesn't the transfer portal prevent tremendous depth from being a thing anymore? And that's why, to Grant's point, uh, that's why LSU went and got numbers. Okay. They know that some of these guys aren't going to work out, but it doesn't really matter at this point. You got to take chances. You just do. Okay. LSU brought in 5 total line players from the portal. Okay. 5. 2 Jacks, Braden Swinson and Ovie Oghofu, and 3 defensive linemen, Jalen Lee, Jordan Jefferson, and Paris Shan. Okay. So these are adults. These are people that can go buy a beer. These are people that have played at the Division 1 level. Some of them have played at the SEC level, Power 5 level. All of them have, actually. Um, we'll see if they can play big boy football in the SEC. So we'll see. Some of them I love. Some of them it's going to take a leap, right? And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think, like, for instance, a good example of like a transfer portal guy that we knew for sure was going to be good is Converse, right? He's a really good player. He was all Big 12, right? And he's an adult, and he was really good for us last year. I mean, we don't beat Alabama if he doesn't transfer. We just don't win that game, and you're going to need some performances like that from some of these guys. Okay. Tyler, good to see you. H-Town, good to see you. Sunny D, good to see you. Yeah, DBs, I wasn't ready at corner last year. Kind of true. What's up, John? FACP, good to see you. The first game was bad. FSU games. Let us get back in the game. Yeah. LSU rush defense wasn't stellar. Yeah. Pierce, good to see you. Call if you super chat. I'll give him. I'll give you one. Let's see here. It's not the case anymore. Let's see here. I like this alert on my phone. Hey, Carter, did you know Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade made the Hall of Fame? Really? Really? They're, I needed to know that those guys got in. They were only kind of good, right? Huh? 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 Let's go to TJ, one of our patrons. Good to see you. What are my thoughts on Ovie Oghofu? Oh, that's a cool photo, Aaron. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. I'll keep that between us. That's really cool. It's kind of crazy because that's wild. Um, Ovie is a very experienced player, right? So this guy's played in a lot of big games. He's played for Brian Kelly before. I mean, he played at Texas, where last year he played against Alabama. He had a sack in that game. And Ovie is someone that can go out there and play the position, right? He is going to give you SEC starter level reps, right? He's going to give you a Jamari Roscoe, right? And I think Roscoe is actually a little underrated, but he's going to be someone that's solid, right? I don't see him as a high upside player per se, right? After watching him, I don't think he's going to go out there and be like BJ, right? I mean, Ojulari was just so fantastic for us last year. And, he had some down moments, but I think some of that was, high snap counts. So yeah, I think Ovie's really solid. I do. It's just I do see a ceiling. And I don't think he's special. But then again, most players aren't special. There's every year on LSU's roster, there might be 4 or 5 special, like truly special players, and then like anywhere from 5 to 10 players on the team that will give you special performances, right? And I think Ovie can give you a big game or two where he goes out there and just has some massive plays. But I do agree with this last part, and he does play really hard. So yeah, I think it's a very good question. Good to see you, TJ, and thank you so much for being a part of the PHL Patreon, my brother. Let's see, and we got to get together. And actually, TJ, you might know I might be in Dallas this weekend for the Final Four. Oh, his stats are very similar to BJ, except for sacks. He's a really solid player, not an elite pass rusher. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I do. Okay. Let's go to Bruce. Still thinking about that Larry Johnson super chat. Not talking about the Chiefs running back either. Really good question. Maybe Savion or Womack. Yeah. So either one of those two, and then honestly, the biggest wild card is Mason, right? I think, and I know you mentioned like edge pressure opposite Perkins, okay? But Mason's got to be that guy, and look, got me another one right here. If you join the PHL Patreon tonight, I'll send this to you. But yeah, Mason is definitely that. Okay. Everybody, welcome to Tyrone Tompkins. I think I've seen you in here before, Tyrone. Okay. Why wasn't Converse invited to the combine? I don't know. It's a good question. I thought he would have gotten an invite. But I don't know. 36 pressures last year, according to PFF. BJ generated 46. So maybe I'm underrating Ovie's special play. 36 pressures is good, and pressures is more important than sacks, right? In that, of course, a sack is better than a pressure, but sometimes those pressures are forcing a quarterback to throw an interception, or sometimes that pressure could prevent a quarterback from throwing a wide open touchdown or an overthrow or something like that. Also, pressures are more stable than sacks. They tend to correlate with year to year success, albeit at the NFL level, maybe not at the college level, but at the NFL, it's proven to be more predictive, right? So yeah, 36 is a lot. It's a lot. But then again, I will share this. I love PFF. I'm not personally a subscriber, but I love a majority of what they do. I will say though, okay, and I won't get into what actually happened today, but uh, sometimes I am very skeptical of some of the pressure sack statistics. Okay. But overall, PFF does a really good job. They look at every single snap, but there is some things that are things that are a little fishy to me from time to time. And look, when you cover every single snap, that's going to happen. So I'm a big PFF fan. It's one of my dreams to work for someone like that. And big thanks to Dr. Morgan. Congratulations. You are the winner of this Mason Smith card. I'll send it out to you. And yeah, I'll send you a message pretty soon on the Patreon app to get all your information. Congratulations, Kara. And I do want to highly recommend you join the PHL Patreon tonight. Now, our patrons can attest to this. My latest Patreon post is up, and I spent 2 days on it on the quarterback mechanics of the 3 scholarship quarterbacks LSU has on their roster. What do quarterback mechanics experts have to say about the throwing of all 3 of the quarterbacks? Now, I was up until 2 in the morning last night speaking to my favorite quarterback mechanic expert, someone that actually gets into the biomechanics of it. Okay. And I was chatting with him about all 3 of the quarterbacks, what he liked, what he didn't like. I sent him a ton of reps from all 3 of them in practice. Obviously, game reps, you really only have 2 of them up to this point. And I shared through the video some of the things that I learned. I also took a lesson from a very famous quarterback that a lot of you know, and that famous quarterback's autograph may or may not be in this camera screen right now, in the background here. But I spent a lot of time on it. I guarantee you it's worth your subscription. I just got a comment here from Mike that it was his favorite Patreon post up to this point. And I'm going to reiterate the same thing that I shared in the study. There's more to quarterbacking than just mechanics. Okay. The simple truth for me is I do think sometimes we overrate mechanics. And that's not just an LSU thing. I think it's an overall thing, because if you are basing and mechanics is different than arm strength. Okay. If you were basing this NFL draft class on quarterback mechanics, Will Levis would be the number 1 overall pick. He is that fluid of a thrower. His motion is butter. It really is. But obviously, I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I don't. Now, he tore us up, but that was in 2021 when we were running man coverage on every snap. So, go check it out, patreon.com/LSU football, if you want a deeper mechanical breakdown of how I see all 3 of the quarterbacks up to this point. And we'll be doing more of just that. Okay. That was pretty funny, Rob. Good to see you. Hey, my thing is this. Okay. Angel's mom said she was receiving DMs thinking that it was her daughter. But how do they know they weren't hollering at her? I'm just saying. I couldn't imagine being the mom and seeing some of the things that dudes do to shoot their shot at a like one of the biggest college athletes on the planet right now, Angel Reese. But yeah. Oh, Mason Smith's mom. How cool is that? Well, that's cool. Well, I got to send you something more than just this right here. Huh? Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea that was you. I think you had mentioned once in here. So yeah, it's cool. So we have 2 defensive linemen parents that watch this channel. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's cool. I've never gotten to talk to her like one-on-one before, but we follow each other on Twitter. But Nikki Hughes, proud UAPB Golden Lion, Nikki Hughes, her son Jeremiah is currently on the team. So so yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll shoot you a message and I will get this card out to you. I also need a Mason Smith autograph, so I think we can work something out. So I have this shirt, okay, with Lance Hurd and Trey Holly's autograph on it. I'm a big memorabilia guy, so yeah. And obviously, I love me some Mason Smith. Always have. And if you don't know Mason's story, this dude is a monster, and he does things. He did something pretty impressive, and I don't think this gets enough credit. When Mason first got to LSU, he changed his diet. And do you know how hard that is as like 18-year-old kid, get to LSU and you dominate everybody and you change your diet and you're ready to be a superstar as a true freshman? So there you go. Cool stuff. And thank you so much, Kara. I really appreciate your support. CJ Stroud has the best accuracy. That's debatable. Yeah, so we brought this up earlier. I shouted you out earlier, Danny girl. She stumped me with some trivia. There is currently an LSU player from Eunice on the roster right now. So we're talking about Daryl Simon earlier. I had a class with Daryl Simon, and I always loved talking to him. I really did. And one thing I think Daryl Simon does not get enough credit for, okay? He just does not get enough credit for is I like to judge players not only when they look good, but when they look bad. Because sometimes a bad performance could actually be really good in the context of the situation, okay? And Daryl Simon is a good example of this. So, Daryl Simon played in the Super Bowl a long time ago, okay? And for those that don't know, Daryl Simon is a former DB who was a part of the greatest defensive backfield we've ever had in 2011, okay? And he was a corner opposite Morris Claiborne on that defense. Really good player. He goes to the NFL, and he is a freak athlete. He was a really good player for us. And he was a backup on the Seattle Seahawks, okay? So, Daryl Simon is a backup on the Seattle Seahawks, all right? And the starting corner gets hurt, okay? And the worst team he could have been playing at the time was the New England Patriots, because you know Bill Belichick, right when he saw the starting corner get hurt, okay? Right when he saw the starting cornerback get hurt, what did he do? Well, he immediately motioned Julian Edelman, one of the best Super Bowl receivers of all time, versus Daryl Simon. And Daryl was roasted. I mean, just torn to pieces. And, you know, there's nothing you could do about it. Like, you know, there's only so much you can do against Brady, right? He's going to eventually find the matchup that he likes. And that deserves praise, right? That deserves praise. Small town Louisiana kid. obviously played in big games at LSU, but early in your career, starter gets hurt, and boom, you've got to guard Julian Edelman and Tom Brady with everything on the line. Okay? Everything. And you almost won the game you guys know how that ended. So that's why I've always liked Daryl Simon. In his lowest moment, he still went out there and competed his peach emoji off. Okay? And I like it, and I know it's weird. Well, Carter, why are you celebrating a player that didn't do well? Because he did actually step up and gave it his all. Okay? And I'm going to tell you this right now. Corner sucks. I am glad every single day as a football player that God did not make me a corner. Okay. I was an undersized defensive lineman. I wasn't that great. But I don't know if I had the mental makeup to be a corner. Right? Especially Julian Edelman in the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? So there you go. Who all is in BR for Easter weekend PHL meetup? So I will be in Baton Rouge for Easter. Okay. So you guys let me know who all is going to be in Baton Rouge then. Okay. Because we have got to hang out. I love meeting out. I love meeting PHL friends and family. I got a really cool note today from Branson, one of our PHL contestants on PHL Idol, coming up here in a month or so. And we'll soon be announcing who our special guest judge for PHL Idol will be. So yeah, I'm certainly down to do something, and we'll try and figure it out. I kind of just want to go to Zippy's and just drink daiquiris. That's what I want to do. Okay. But yes, Danny is a big Daryl Simon fan because she is from Eunice and he is from Eunice, right? So shout out to all our Unicians. There you go. Seems like LSU needs to get one more offensive lineman, a safety, and a running back. If Emory and Goodwin are not 100%, the running back room becomes thin. It's a very good question. Okay. So once again, Bruce, thank you so much. Every time you hear, you always drop a super chat of $5. That goes a long way. I really appreciate you. Okay. Now, here's what I'll say about the depth. I would like to get one more experienced offensive lineman in a perfect world. It obviously depends on your evaluation of the guys that LSU has coming in. I think a lot of you feel pretty good about Lance Hurd. If he doesn't start, at least be a good backup for us. And I think a lot of you feel good about Mason Lunsford. Okay. But yeah, I think, part of it is, when it comes to offensive line depth, you just want as many bodies as you can. We're talking about that 11 team not too long ago. They were so deep up front. So yeah, it would be a perfect world if you were able to get another offensive lineman. Okay. A safety, I definitely agree with. It would be nice to have an adult back there. And once again, getting a superstar at this point is very unlikely. But it would be nice, when sometimes when LSU doesn't have the depth at one position, it just makes you go, God, it's not that I miss Grant Delpit, because Grant Delpit is truly, one of the best. But I just miss a John Battle back there, Ricky Jefferson, someone that you can go out there and you trust. Okay, so yeah, it would be nice to have another experienced guy back there. But as of right now, it looks like it's going to be the Major Burns and Greg Brooks show. And then obviously another running back. My thing for this, Bruce, would be, is there a running back out there that would like to come join a crowded backfield? One that is a little scattered. I think at this point, Bruce, LSU loves what they have with Trey Holly and Caleb Jackson coming in. Of course, Trey is already there. So you would like to think at least one of those guys will be playable as true freshmen. Armani Goodwin, his career has been so injury riddled, and with John Emery, you never really know what's happening. So then it leaves you with Noah Kane and Josh Williams, both of which Josh has a ton of injuries recently. And once again, that's very recent. For the most part, Josh Williams has been a very healthy player for LSU. And then Noah Kane has a pretty extensive injury history himself. Obviously missing, basically a full year at Penn State, back in 2020. And he's had some lingering issues over the past couple of seasons. But what's interesting is I keep hearing, all right, and I used to be a lot like a lot of you, right? Well, I keep hearing this. Well, LSU is in a quandary here, right? They don't have a special running back and they could upgrade at running back. And I'd be the first to tell you that Josh Williams isn't in, the Fournette, Geis, Clyde Edwards-Helaire level of modern day great running backs. But Josh Williams and Noah Kane were really good players for us last year. You look at rush yards above expectation, rush yards over contact. Those numbers actually look really good for them, right? Some of these advanced stats, they broke tackles, and that's normally a good sign of of a good running back. And something else that's very interesting is, you do wonder, hey, how much of that is Jaden, right? Because, you look at the NFL and you look at rush yards over expectation, the running backs that normally are the best in those categories have a running quarterback with them. So someone that is an elite runner at the quarterback position. So think Jalen Hurts, think Lamar Jackson and those guys. So yeah, I mean, he I think we're fine at running back, but I do think I would be open to getting someone back. Now, who would that person be? You immediately think, who are Louisiana running backs that are playing really well elsewhere? Ironically, that list is pretty long, right? Logan Diggs at Notre Dame's probably going to be the starter there. Le'Veon Moss at Texas A&M has a good shot to play a lot there. And then, of course, Etienne and Montreal Johnson at Florida. There's a lot of really good running backs that have left the state and been very successful. But, would any of them come back at this point? Probably not. So who would that running back be that would come in the portal? I don't know. Trevante Citizen? I really had a high grade on Citizen coming out, but I know he was very hurt. Yeah, Jordan, we'll figure out some location. I'm down to do some backers. LA Mom, another person who really enjoyed our quarterback breakdown on Patreon. So make sure you check it out. Oh, I really enjoyed Code the Zine that you have been in the chat the last couple of days, but I couldn't disagree with any comment more than this. I think Malik is fine at wide receiver. Sibley! Josh Williams can get it done. And I do agree, Bruce. I mean, with John, you just don't know, man. You just don't know. But yeah, I gotta say this about John. The fumbles were bad, right? There's always something, right? Obviously, off the field, the academic stuff has just been there. The injuries have also been there for him. And this past year, the fumbles were a thing. But then again, you do see some really crazy things that he's able to do. And there are some things that I would tweak with his running style. Um, but I mean, he did catch 2 huge passes for us this past year, the Auburn one and the Alabama one. So there you go. Oh, I needed some sarcasm, Fawn. Jacoby Matthews. You know, one thing that always got me so messed up was the spelling. You spelled it correctly. I always put 2 T's in Matthews, and he's a 1 T guy. I've always had issues with that. LSU is always best with having multiple running back threats. It's true. It's true. What was it? The 07 team had 5 players with 35 carries or more. Speaking of offensive linemen, LSU is hosting 5-star offensive tackle John Daniels in the state of Florida. How about that? Early Doucette. You want to chat some early Doucette? I'm down to chat some early Doucette. Let's go. Underrated plays. I know the Alabama game in 07 will always be known as the Chad Jones game, right? Because that was the final play. And there were so many other big plays that happened in that game, right? Alabama was driving. They had a wide open 4th down pass, and Craig Stelz jarred a ball loose, and that ended the game. And one of the biggest plays, though, was a 4th and 3. And Early Doucette caught a touchdown pass over the middle from Matt Flynn. Okay. And then obviously, this was another one. The Auburn game, right, was such a crazy game. And, you know, we always remember the throw to Demetrius Byrd with seconds remaining. It was crazy. I think that was Matt Flynn's first 300-yard passing game. And then he had his top 4 receivers all drop passes in that game. And he still threw for over 300. There was a ball in the early second half of that game. I'd have to go back and watch it, where Flynn laid a dime to Early Doucette over the deep middle of the field. And it was a dime. It was open, but it's still hard to throw over the deep middle. And that was such a big catch for us. So yeah, Early Doucette was a really good player. You know, one of the first 5-star receivers at LSU. They had other like 5-star talents. You know, I think Clayton was a 5-star coming out, but he was a very solid player at LSU. So there you go, man. I love a good early Doucette reference. I think early Doucette also was actually the first card we gave out on PHL. Gave it to Roger Dodger. So, but yeah, early Doucette was really, really, really solid player, and very happy he was an LSU Tiger. But yeah. Now, there was a reason why I didn't bring up the Jamarcus Russell catch. Okay. Because it wasn't a catch. Okay. And I think, when you think of the luckiest uh Les Miles plays. Okay. So the Jamarcus Russell Arizona State throw very well could be the best throw in LSU history. It is that good of a throw. I mean, it's crazy. Now, of course, 93 dash right Berlin is probably the most or did I say that right? Dash right 93 Berlin. The Bluegrass Miracle will always be the most famous throw, the most memorable throw, along with Demetrius Byrd versus Auburn. But I don't know if there's another LSU quarterback that could have made the throw that Jamarcus Russell made versus Arizona State. That was an absolute laser to early Doucette. And yeah, it's a good one too, Joshua. Mock to Green in the Georgia game in Tiger Stadium. That was a big one, especially considering we hadn't won any natties by then. That was huge. But yeah, the Jay Russ throw. The thing about it though is if you look at the replay, the ball did hit the ground, but they didn't replay it because I don't think there was replay at the time. So that was a 4th and 10 throw. But yeah, I mean, it is that ball. I mean, I would have loved to have heard that ball coming out of his hand because it had to have made some kind of noise, right? Or to think if you're around like if you're by like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis throwing a ball, the ball makes a sound when it leaves their hands. When it leaves Mahomes' hands, it is that it's coming out that hot. And God, Jay Russ, that was just crazy throw. It didn't make sense. John Tibby was there. John Tibby was there. Dre will be at Pro Day tomorrow. Jackson is going to take the reins. What's up? Diagnose. QB later in the year, kid's a stud. David Green. Who remembers that guy for Georgia? Man, he was good. Let's keep going with these supers. I really appreciate it. Do you think LSU has the best wide receiver room in the SEC? Do you think Jaden Daniels is improving deep ball throws in practice highlights? Good question. So on and a $15 super chat. Thank you so much, Kareem. So on Patreon, I shared a breakdown of the Jaden's mechanics. I haven't seen enough of the deep balls from Jaden up to this point. I just haven't to say one way or the other. But you would like to think we are heading in the right direction for him, being a better vertical thrower. So yeah, and also Kareem, I don't think necessarily is it's as much mechanics and throwing motion kind of stuff as it is him making the decision to throw the football deep. There were just so many instances, especially later in the year, where there was guys open deep and we just didn't hit it. But then again, you could still miss those shots and still win a bunch of games, as Jaden did. Um, so yeah, obviously I'm still Jaden QB1. And it's going to take a lot for me to not have him be QB1 and thus be a high quality backup. Okay. Do I think LSU has the best wide receiver room in the SEC? Very good question again. Look, I think Malik's the best wide receiver in the SEC. I do. I think the only wide receiver better than him in college football is Marvin Harrison, right? And you would be lying if it was that. Now, Malik should go out there and say, hey, I'm going to prove that I am better than Marvin Harrison. Now, the best wide receiver room in the SEC. It depends how you feel about Sheldon Sampson. I do like him a lot. It also depends how you feel about Kyron Lacy. LSU tweeted out a clip of Kyron Lacy burning LaTerrence Welsh this week. I think it's tough to say the best wide receiver room in the SEC. I don't think it's Alabama. Alabama still needs to find an alpha, and I don't know who that's going to be. We'll see. Malik Benson is that guy coming over from the JUCO ranks. He was the number one rated JUCO receiver, and I did like him a lot. I wish LSU would have gotten him. But a low-key good wide receiver room in the SEC is Kentucky. Right now, if I were to power rank the wide receivers in the SEC, I would probably have Malik Neighbors number one. I would. But Barian Brown is just not that far behind. He is truly a special deep threat. Like, he is really, really good. And, him and Key were really good pieces for them last year. And they get Liam Cohen back. They get Leary back. Or they get Leary out of the portal. Now, I know I have crapped on Kentucky's football program recently because of a lot of different reasons. All right. I think they're the most overrated SEC program in the SEC. But as of now, the best wide receiver room in the SEC, I would probably have to say it's Texas A&M. From top to bottom, they're probably the deepest. Moose Muhammad's a really good player. Evan Stewart's a really good player. They get Anaya Smith back. Noah Rogers is a very interesting piece. So they did lose Chris Marshall in the portal to Ole Miss, but they've got a really good receiver room. And, there's probably not a coach in the SEC who got more out of their receivers than when Bobby Petrino was in his prime at Arkansas, because he had so many dudes that looked like Sunday guys, and not a single one of them turned out to be a big-time Sunday guy. I mean, they were good. They were really good. So, A&M drew deep. They're really, really deep this year. Missouri, Missouri with Luther Burden, but also, the wide receiver that transferred to Georgia, Dominic Lovett and Ra Thomas. Yeah, I mean, Georgia, if you include, once again, we're just focusing on receivers, but, Brock Bowers is definitely in there. So Georgia's definitely got a case. Yeah, Jordan. So this is the downside. What's up, Pensacola Packbusters? There's a Florida State representative. Um, I go back to so this is the hardest thing about doing this as an LSU fan, right? I truly believe you could be a fanboy of your team, a super fan of your team, and still be fair when evaluating the team, right? Uh, there's a lot of people I respect that do this very thing, and I just love it. I don't like it when someone covers a team and they're like, I went there, but I'm a professional, whatever. That's fine. Okay, be professional all you want, but let people know you were a fan. Okay, just be outright. I'm a fan of this school, but at the same time, just be fair in your analysis. Just be fair. Okay, I'm going to be as honest as I can. This guy could turn out to be the next great thing. But coming out, I just was not in love with Chaz Preston. I just wasn't. And we did videos at the time, and I liked him. I really, really did. But I didn't love him. Okay. And, you know, it it's hard, right? It's really, really, really hard. Um, you know, maybe I can go back and look at, my old videos. Maybe I said uh that I loved him at some point, but ultimately coming out of Louisiana last year, he was in my top 5, but I actually had the wide receiver that went to Mississippi State that entered the portal for a little bit, but then I think he went back. Xavier Thomas was my number 1 guy. Okay. And I loved him. I really, really, really did. And with the Mississippi State, had a really good true freshman season as a punt returner. And I wish we would have gotten him. And then Aaron Anderson was mixed in there as well. I really liked it. I really liked Aaron Anderson as well coming out. I just wasn't really ever just in love with Chaz Preston. Uh, but I'd love to go back and re-listen to all of it. But the Louisiana prospects coming out of high school last year, okay, Emory Jones offensively was by far my number 1. And then it was Will Campbell. Then it was Walker Howard. Actually, no, I take that back. It was Emory Jones, Xavier Thomas, and Will Campbell, or it might have been opposite. Uh, and then Walker Howard. And then after that, I think it was Aaron Anderson. So, yeah. But yeah, Shaz has great size. I just, I never I never really was just enamored with his high school tape for whatever reason. Uh, but then again, if he would have went to LSU, I would have been very happy he chose LSU. But also, and I do this as well for wide receivers. I do think I tend to grade them a little bit harder because I know how hard it is to play wide receiver at LSU. It's really hard, right? You're going up against the best. There are wide receivers from the state that go win Heisman trophies for other universities, that go into having long NFL careers for other universities. I think Dontavian Wicks of Virginia is an NFL sleeper. I really do. I know he doesn't test well, but I think he's a sleeper in this NFL draft. I really do. You know, there's so much wide receiver talent here. So you've really got to be somebody. You have really got to be somebody if you are going to play wide receiver here. It's tough. It is really, really, really tough. Jared, what's up? Good to see you. I'm a huge Jack Besh guy. Huge. He came on the channel. Jack Besh has been on this channel before. And his true freshman season, for wide receivers statistically was one of the best true freshman seasons we've ever seen from an LSU wide receiver. 1 year, a depth chart later, he leaves. And I got why he left. I understood it. That goes to show you how hard it is to play wide receiver here. Jared, you get to pick the next topic. Is Deion Smith still floating around there? Man, Deion was a really good one, man. Bama will lose to LSU. Huh? I am interested to go back and listen to some of my Shaz Press, and I think I remember just not just totally being in love with them. I know I did a few videos about like the metrics, like top 100 Louisiana wide receivers are as sure of a thing, but man, let me see something really quickly. Let's see. I'm still mad about Besh and Howard leaving. Dwayne says I don't sweat Johnson, Besh, or Howard leaving in the least. Dwayne D, good to see you. I think this is the first time I've ever seen you, Dwayne D. Welcome to the channel. Johnson. I'm trying to think Johnson. And I see a Tyron Johnson. I like that basis. Got to be honest. So obviously I was younger. I was writing for Bleacher Report at the time. I did think Tyron Johnson was special. Like I really thought he was going to be like really freaking good. And he actually ended up being pretty good at Oklahoma State. Not special, but I mean, he went to, Mike Gundy's offense and they had like 3 experienced receivers and the transfer portal rules were different then. And yeah, and he goes to the NFL. He had a pretty good NFL career, but his dad just said, "Hey, it's nothing against LSU. We just don't like the offense." Right? Kind of the same thing with like Trey Quinn, right? I think some of you remember Trey Quinn. Trey Quinn's one of the greatest high school football players statistically ever, in like United States of America. And what he caught 100 balls at SMU in an offense with freaking Cortland Sutton. And both those guys had great NFL careers. I mean, and I notice I say great. I should say good, but they both lasted in the NFL 3-4ish years and caught touchdowns. I mean, they weren't just dudes, right? And it goes to show you, once again, if you are evaluating wide receivers in Louisiana and they are thinking about going to LSU or they go to LSU or whatever, there's just a really high threshold to just play. It is hard to just be on the field and get reps. I do think this room is the most open it's been in a few years now, but we'll see. Is FSU versus LSU going to be the best, biggest game of the college football season? Can't think of a better regular season game. Okay, so one thing I've got to give Scott Woodward and Verge Osbury. Those are obviously the two guys that have the biggest influence on LSU's schedule. And obviously Brian Kelly has a say, but a lot of this stuff was in the works before he got there. There's something to be said about the first game of the season playing somebody. Okay. I really cannot stress this enough. I really, really, really cannot stress this enough. It is absurd to think about how crazy that is to play someone really difficult in week one. It's hard. You don't know what your team is like. You don't. Now, this year, we are going to be way better prepared for it than what we were last year. And especially in retrospect, knowing that, Perk wasn't a part of what we were doing yet, really, and Emory Jones wasn't a part of what we were doing yet. And if those two guys play, is it a different game last year? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But now, playing the first game of the season against a top 15 recruiter with a really good coach, and then next year we're going to play a better recruiter with a better coach. It's crazy. It is abso-freaking-lutely crazy. Now, really think about this, okay? This is what is really mind-blowing, and I'm really glad you super chatted this, Donovan, okay? Let's take a look at the quarterbacks that LSU would have faced in week one of the last 3 seasons, okay? And I actually 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, okay? So it's about to go. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who is going to get selected in the NFL draft and is one of the most statistically relevant quarterbacks in the history of the Pac-12. Then Jordan Travis in back-to-back years. And next year, whoever Lincoln Riley's quarterback is going to be, it looks like it's going to be Malachi Nelson, a 5-star. You got to start your season with those dudes, right? It's hard. I mean, it is absurd to think about, right? And you see why, okay? I got a lot of messages from, my anti-Kentucky rants recently. Why are you picking on Kentucky? Well, people are starting talking about them being a legitimate program. They never play anybody the first week of the season. It is a completely different sport, right? You have no idea what your team is like. Nothing. Any coach that claims to have an idea of what their entire team is actually going to look like without having played a game, it is lunacy, right? So LSU not being fearful of the unknown, yes, they get a pretty check playing the neutral site games. Yes, it's good for the brand and all of that. But the bottom line is it's bold. It is bold. Last live stream, I won't do it again. I waxed poetic about the Oregon Ducks. The Oregon Ducks freaking love their program. Freaking love them because they aren't scared. They play teams that are about to beat the bejesus out of you. They played Tyrann Mathieu week one. They played Auburn week one. They played Georgia last year week one. I give them credit for that. So, I agree, Donovan. This is going to be the game of the season, honestly. Once again, the game of the year every year is going to be Michigan, Ohio State. Every year it's going to be that game. And I get it, especially now that Michigan's won 2 in a row. Okay. That game is always going to have playoff implications and so on and so on and so on. It's always going to be the biggest regular season game of the year, right? But this one's unique. This is what makes college football great. You have these 2 iconic brands that rarely ever play. And, you have all these iconic players that have played for both of these schools. They have Dion, we have Tyron, right? They have freaking Charlie Ward, we have Joe Burrow, right? They've got Heisman's, we've got Heisman's. They have Peter Warwick, we have Jamar Chase. I mean, it's just cool. It is really, really cool. So, yeah, I love the super chat. I really do. And I give Brian Kelly and everybody at LSU a lot of credit. Yes, you get a good check. Yes, it's fun for our fans to travel to Lambeau or to freaking Vegas or whatever, Orlando. Of course, I'd rather play this game in Tallahassee, but still, that would work against us. I would rather play this game in Tallahassee. It is just cool that we have these week one matchups. It's also lunacy. It is lunacy because college football, there is no sport in major sports culture. There is not a single one where your regular season schedule matters more than in college football. Not a single one. Every game matters so much more in college football than in every other sport. And it is the only sport with no preseason. It is the only sport where there is no intra-squad scrimmages, right? Where you scrimmage against someone that is not your own team. None of that. None of that exists in college football. So you get no walkthroughs. You get no warm-up games unless you get a week 0 game, which I'm a big proponent of. You get none of that. No, none of that. You better buckle your chin strap week 1. Okay? That's what I love about it, man. That's what I freaking love about it. I'm telling you, it's a freaking drug. College football is a drug. It is unlike anything else. NBA snooze fest, 82 game snooze fest. Last night, perfect example. This was the most hyped NBA game we have had in a long time, right? You have the Denver Nuggets and the Philadelphia 76ers, okay? You have two big cities, right? Two pretty sizable markets, not elite top 5 market, but still. And both teams have some NBA history, but not, amongst like the best of the best teams, right? The Bulls, the Celtics, Lakers, or whatever. You guys know what I'm saying. So we get this game. And by the way, this game is going to decide the MVP race. You have Nikola Jokic and you have Joel Embiid. And you have all these discussions around these two players. And does Jokic deserve a third straight MVP? Larry Bird was the last to win a third straight MVP. And they got all these analysts saying, hey, it's this and that, and there's bias and all of this. And we're super excited. These two guys that are leading the MVP race, they're playing against each other. They're both healthy, ready to go. And what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? One star decides to rest. Joel Embiid decides to rest in this game. We were excited to see this, right? We were excited. We were got the Jokic versus Embiid. This is a debate. If you follow NBA at all, this is a debate. This is it. And you had this one game, by the way, which fans paid full ticket for. There was probably a premium on that ticket because there was probably a bunch of NBA fans saying, wow, this game is going to decide the MVP. People spent their gas, their tickets, their money, parking, babysitters, and they had to decide, am I going to take my main chick, my side chick, or both of them? You had to make all these decisions, all these sacrifices. And no, we have got to rest our star for the playoffs. Doesn't happen in college football. Doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Now, opt-outs do, and I get it. Those make sense. I get it. And I understand why the 76ers did it. Doesn't make it any less sucky. It doesn't. Okay? And by the way, the MVP is a regular season award. So you sitting the star out is telling us that this regular season award is meaningless. Okay? Embiid should have played yesterday. And I know this is an LSU football thing, but it just goes back to the original point. Jaden Daniels and Jordan Travis could not play the opening game. They could both, for some reason, sit out. And the game doesn't lose its weight. The game doesn't lose its magnitude. It is still a big freaking game. Okay. That's what I love about it. That's what I love about the sport. It's why I wanted the 14 playoff to stay the same. Okay. And the 12-team playoff is still going to be great. Okay. But there you go. Now, I have decided to not watch the Pels game because I am nervous about tonight. Let me check the score. We're up by 11. There we go. Thought about betting us in a must-win game. Oh, wow. The Warriors are 8.5-point favorites. I should have taken my Pels. We're playing good ball right now. The Lakers are sucking. The Mavericks sucked, even though they beat down the Pacers yesterday. Did y'all see that Luka Doncic pass yesterday? Are you freaking kidding me? This guy can hookah and throw freaking Magic Johnson passes and drop 60. Dude, it's unbelievable. So, yeah, and once again, I love the NBA. It just sucks for those people that paid the premium for that game. Oh, I agree. I grew up NBA fan more than anything else. NBA was my first love. But we have gone on. This is probably like the 10th different NBA rant I've gone on. And I still freaking love my Pels. It is very interesting, though, that it could come back to bite Golden State. So they rested Steph Curry in 2 games versus us early in the year. By the way, 2 home Pelican games early in the season. Screwed over all the Warriors fans that live in New Orleans that paid a premium. But there you go. Got an argument with Pels fans. If you could trade B.I., Herb, Dyson, and 5 first. Oh, my God, Pegasus. Are you kidding me? That's probably the worst hypothetical I think I've ever heard in my life. B.I., Herb, Dyson, and 5 first for Luka? Yes. I mean, come on. No doubt about it. And I love all those guys you mentioned. But for Luka, are you kidding me? I think, you would question that fit. And I think the Mavs would, first off, the Mavs are just never going to trade him. But unless he demanded to get out. But yeah, I don't think that's really an argument. I think every single person here would trade that. But I don't think this would even get tabled. 5 first-round picks. What is that? It's Kyra Lewis, Jackson Hayes, Dyson Daniels is a first-round pick. I'm telling you, I just think people overrate first-round picks. Yeah, Giannis and Kawhi were 15th overall picks, and Jokic was a second-round pick. That's a needle in a haystack, though, man. Draymond was a second-round pick. Most people just aren't. Like, most of the stars are first-round picks, like top 5 picks. Okay, so yeah, you don't even think about it. Swapping BI for Luka doesn't make a good fair trade. The picks are nearly inconsequential. So you wouldn't make the deal, Pierce. You wouldn't make that deal. Yeah, look, and Herb Jones is a better defender than any of them. Okay, but yeah, that would, what would your starters be? That would be Luka with That would be Luca, Brandon Ingram. Well, no, Luca, Zion, Trey Murphy. Are you kidding me? Luca with Trey Murphy? Name a shooter on the Mavericks better than Trey Murphy. I'm serious. Name one. I would not trade for Luca as his team is currently constructed. Yeah, but then again, I I mean, there are some pieces that need to get reevaluated, right? Uh, and they're old, right? Like I'm not experimenting. Does Luca and Garrett Temple fit together, right? Uh, but yeah, the bottom line is is what Donald said. Luka Doncic. I'm just trying to think, like, how many more less tradable players in the NBA are there than Luka Doncic at this point, right? When Bignana, when he gets to the NBA, I'm still kind of interested how that's going to go. I don't think anyone's trading him. I don't think anybody's trading Giannis. I don't think anybody's going to trade Joker. Uh, but I think every other team in the NBA picks up that phone call. I do. Obviously, you exclude guys like Durant and those guys because they're older, right? But yeah, I mean, John Sibley. Once again, if someone knows somebody that can get me one single ticket to the Final Four this coming weekend, please let me know. Okay. LSU men's basketball is very disappointing. Couldn't believe my eyes. I totally agree with you. But I think we all agree. We've not talked any Kim Mulkey today. I thought it was pretty cool to see the send off today. But yeah, we, you know, after the allure of going to the Final Four, taking a step back, obviously the games are terribly officiated. I'm not going to go into another rant about it. And I felt that way for Utah and Miami's end as well. The calls are that bad. But LSU did not play well in either one of their wins. That's true. Uh, yeah, Luka Doncic. Is it Doncic or Doncic? Yeah, Abby, but it then gets into there would be language in the deals that would say, "Hey, it is a first round like protected pick or something like that." But yeah, I agree with you. Like you don't that aside, I think the original hypothetical from Pegasus, which is ridiculous because it would never get tabled, is unless Luca wanted to force his way out. Okay. Oh man. I I just think Kyrie's a team killer. I just do. And it has nothing to do with it has something to do with there always just being something going on off the court with him. But I mean, I think people just forget how big of a disaster the Brooklyn stuff was, the Boston stuff was, um, how bad the Cavaliers were with him pre LeBron. I just think he's so overrated. I really do. Um, and the Mavericks don't really have defenders. I mean, Reggie Bullock, Max Kleba. I mean, I'm sorry. I can't get behind the Mavericks having solid pieces. Christian Wood is just mid. I don't know. I don't know about solid pieces. The Hardy guy is actually very interesting though. How will history remember Damian Lillard? I think he's wasting his prime years with the team that's trying to make money and pocket the profits. It's a good question. Um, so let's start with the first about like history remembering a player. Damian Lillard will be the most positively remembered non-winner of this era, right? Because he's anti-super team and he's anti-ring culture. The interview with JJ Redick was really good, and I agreed with a lot of what he had to say. You know, to win a ring, you have to join a super team, right? Just all there is to it. And he's not willing to do that. He's not willing to rip the hearts out of Portland fans just yet. Um, he's got this really good hip hop career. Uh, he's probably the most loved NBA players alive right now. Like, there's just so many players that just rub people the wrong way, or they ring chased, or they flop a lot. And Dame just really doesn't do this as this undersized guy, who, by the way, is really good at music too. And it gives a good interview, and it's unapologetically authentic. Um, and is probably a top 10 player when it comes to eye appeal. He's just exciting. He's a fun watch. You had the famous Oklahoma City shot. You got the Dame time celebration. I mean, LeBron lost to him in the All-Star game and he still did the celebration. And he's an NBA top 75 player. Also, something else, Donald, and I know this partially because of being a sports card guy. It is shocking how many people collect Damian Lillard cards and pay a lot of money for them. People remember guards better than they remember post players, right? Like, a lot of Lillard stuff is more expensive than a lot of like Shaq stuff. People just relate to guards more because they're guards. Most people when they play basketball are guards, right? He's 6'2". The average height of a human is 6 foot. I think there's just more relatability with that. So I think history is going to remember him very fondly because he's got these moments that, some of these are in the playoffs, but they're in the first round. But still, I think they're going to remember him fondly. I do. With the team that's just trying to make money and pocket the profits, when has a free agent ever said, you know what, I want to go to Portland? You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. Now, Portland's had great players, but she left, Clyde left, and had better success elsewhere. Yes, they had Scotty coming at the end, but that was different. Yes, they had Arvydas Sabonis. That was different. Yes, they had Bill Walton. He left for the Celtics. Clyde, I mean, they've had great players. It's just, in Northwest sports fans are some of the best sports fans on the planet, especially when it comes to NBA. And that is a very NBA market because of cold weather and all that stuff. And Seattle deserves a team. But, I think the NBA is going to fondly remember Damian Lillard. And I don't think he's someone that's just going to fade away because he didn't win a title. Like, for instance, here's a good example. Are we going to remember Damian Lillard better than we remember his coach, Chauncey Billups? Right? Chauncey Billups had a cool nickname, like Damian Lillard, Mr. Big Shot. He actually won a title and won an iconic ring at that, when they beat that Lakers super team with Malone, the Glove, and Kobe, right? I still think people are going to remember Damian Lillard more than they remember Chauncey Billups. I might be totally wrong about that, but I just think so because Dame is such a supreme player. And I when you think modern era guards, who is he behind? Well, he's definitely behind Steph. He's definitely behind Chris Paul. And then after that, it gets a little weird, right? If you include D Wade in the modern era, I do. He's definitely behind him. Uh, then who else is he like clearly behind? Like, and when I say guard, I mean like 6'4", 6'5", and under guys. So not like Tatum or any of these guys. So yeah, I think modern era he's firmly up there. So like it, Kara, Dr. Kara, excuse me. Oh, let's go, Angel Reese. Bonzi Wells. Let's go. 5'6" is the average male human height. Let me see. About 5'9" for men worldwide. So let's see this. What is the average height of an American? 5'9" in the U.S. as well. So let's meet in the middle, according to the CDC. And verywellfit.com. What up, J Red? Yeah, and I referenced that JJ Redick interview a minute ago. There you go. As you can see, I love the NBA. I'm always going to love it. Always going to love it. I thank my dad for that. It is truly special. But one thing I also think, okay, and I truly do believe this. I think there is room for another professional basketball league in America. I really do think so. There's just so much demand for basketball. It is a sport where people 35 and under still it's gotten more popular with that demographic. I think there's room for it. I really do. If it's done differently than the NBA, it'd have to be different. You would have to do it differently. But uh, yeah, do I think Matt McMahon and the portal get cranked up? Chance, I would be honest. I have a tough time keeping up with the college football transfer portal, and I cover this sport. It gets overwhelming. The basketball portal is absurd, right? There could be a guard who averages 4 points for a losing team. His name enters a portal, and you'll see Arkansas has reached out to him. Syracuse has reached out to him. Rhode Island has reached out to him. And you have no idea if these guys are any good or not. And, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And I know the Auburn kid entered the portal, and he was committed to LSU at first. I don't know. I'm a huge Caleb Jackson believer. His athleticism is absurd, right? Uh, he's got he is a very similar runner to Fournette. There's not a whole lot of wiggle, right? It is north and south. Now it doesn't mean they can't cut. It's just, you know, they're very similar in how they play, right? And I think Caleb Jackson is a good, like, him and Trey Holly complement each other, because Trey Holly does have a lot of wiggle. He does have a lot of bounce in his game, and it is Hollywood. The big three was good. So there you go. Getting a super chat here. I saw Kobe face T-Mac in Orlando. Oh, boy. Yeah, the McGrady years are fun. The McGrady years are fun. It's ironic because he almost won a ring with San Antonio as like the 12th guy on the bench. If I remember correctly, he might have actually won one. I don't remember. Yeah, T-Mac was Himothy. There was a long period of time in Kobe's prime, by the way, where it was a legitimate question. Would you take T-Mac over Kobe? I thought T-Mac's. Do you guys remember the T-Mac logo? Dude, I remember begging my dad, please, Daddy, get me a T-Mac headband. The T-Mac logo. Dude, whoever designed this, oh, man. It is so simple. Okay, that one's not the best photo of it. Let me see. Actually, that one's. Oh, don't do that. Let me pull up the best one. Is that a good one? Just give me a clean image of it. My goodness gracious. What the? All right, this was it right here. Okay, and this one, it's not quite what it is, but look at this, dude. I mean, that is just fire. So you had the jersey number 1 right there. And then you also had the T and the M mixed in there. God, that logo is fire, man. That is probably my favorite non-Allen Iverson logo. But then again, I'm an Iverson fanboy. So, yeah, that is just gas, bro. Gas, bro. You could tell he had an Asian creator. Did he have an Asian creator? I have no idea. Whoever it was, this is fire, bro. Fire. But yeah, T-Mac, man. So he actually started a separate basketball league with he started a separate basketball league. I think it was like a one-on-one nationwide tournament or something like that. So tell me, let me. And by the way, In the next 5 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. But for right now, we'll continue chatting. I do want to ask you guys a question though. Have you ever, okay, and I'm asking you, all right, if we're watching on a big screen or on a phone or on a computer, I want to ask you a question, okay? Were you ever a fan of a team and it just faded away? Okay. So when I was younger, I remember my favorite color growing up was green, like when I was super young. And I really loved Michigan State basketball. And I saw at a younger age Mateen Cleaves and Morris Peterson win that title over Teddy Dupay and the Florida Gators, right? So I became a Michigan State fan. And I still like Izzo. I still pull for Michigan State. And I liked Magic Johnson and the history and all of that. But I then just faded away. I just didn't like, Michigan State all that much. And I get an alert here. Odell Beckham showed up to league meetings today to meet with the Ravens. Very interesting. Odell and Lamar. It's crazy if Lamar signs with them. But yeah, I just faded. And I used to love Draymond Green. Just can't stand the flopping. I can't stand the flopping. It's just too much. Curry over Iverson, and it's not close. Curry over Iverson, and it's not close. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Do you agree with this take? Curry over Iverson, and I think most people agree with the first part, but the it's not close part. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Okay. The it's not close part of this. Y for yes, N for no. Mr. James says no. Dwayne says no. Aaron says no. Curry over Iverson, and it's not close. Okay. All right. And Pierce is a Steph hater. Okay. All right. You did ask for my opinion. Okay. First thing is Allen Iverson is really respectful of the history of the NBA. Okay. So this kind of stuff means a lot to him. I think more so than pretty much everybody else in the modern era. Like you see, like I get very emotional about Allen Iverson. I loved him so much. Like I really did. He like, Jordan, my dad was a big Jordan fan. I grew up watching Jordan. But Iverson really, he was different, right? The cornrows, the shooter sleeve, making Reebok cool. Like, I mean, it was just everything, man. Like, he just like it was a movement. Like culturally, he was as big of a force as he was like an actual player. Okay. And once again, he takes this stuff very seriously. I know this just from just reading this stuff. Um, so yeah, and I think he would be one of those people that would be like fair and say, he thinks highly of himself, but he would also say, hey, Steph has accomplished all these things. Okay. So, like for me, it's not close between who I like better between these two. Like AI is like top 10, like all-time favorite athletes. Freaking love this guy, man. Also, AI's best teammate was who on those 76ers runs? Aaron McKee, washed up Keith Van Horn, Eric Snow, maybe? Once again, NBA's not my main thing. I love it, though, as you can tell. Steph's best teammates were Draymond Green. Obviously, that's better than anything Iverson ever played with, and Melo, but come on. And then Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. Oh, come on, Pierce. Don't make me mute you. Don't make me mute you, man. Pierce, you know basketball better than this. You know basketball better than this. You know basketball better than this. Okay. Come on, Pierce. Monta Ellis? Really? Premium? Come on. And I know you're a little bit younger than me. So it's tough for me to say this. If they played one-on-one, it would be very close. Steph is what, 6'3", 6'4"? Okay. Iverson 6 foot, 6'1", just off the top of my head. Better handle, probably Iverson slightly. Better finisher at the rim, definitely Iverson. Okay. Better defender, probably AI, probably. But Curry is better. Okay. This is coming from a Iverson guy. All right. Curry is a better player. And I do think they're in different tiers. I do. Okay. Iverson is in the Dwayne Wade tier of all-time great players, right? Where you can make a case for top 20-ish, but it's not for certain. Okay. You can make a case. Steph Curry is without reasonable doubt a top 20 player of all time. Without reasonable doubt. And while Iverson was probably a bigger movement culturally, okay, with his style and the press conferences and how he talked and all of it, okay, it was different. Steph changed the way basketball was played forever. So, in terms of on-court impact, nobody of this era has had a bigger influence on the game of basketball than Steph Curry. And that includes LeBron James, right? Because LeBron is one of one. You're not going to go to a high school gyms and see anybody do what LeBron could do on a court. You do go to high school gyms and see people jack up threes. Unconsciously jack up threes. Okay? Thinking they're Steph Curry. I've seen it. And it changed everything. The Warriors and Steph changed everything of how basketball is played now. Okay. So I do agree Curry did win with Klay before KD. Iverson could never. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, obviously slightly different eras. Game was played differently. How would Iverson do in this era right now? I think he would murder it. I really do. I think he would absolutely murder it. I think just naturally he would be a better outside shooter. That wasn't really ever, his game per se. But yeah, I agree. I do agree with Ari. It's kind of close in terms of just like all-time ranks, right? I think most people are going to put Allen Iverson no less than like top 30. But everybody that covers the NBA, um, that works for a major publication and all that stuff, you're not going to see Steph Curry not be in a top 20 list. Okay. Is he top 10? It's a little bit more debatable. I get that, but Steph Curry cannot be lower than 20. He simply cannot. So, the more I think about it, the more I agree. So, Tari, as much as I hate to say it, I'm AI over Steph 12 days out of 10. Steph could show up to me right now, hand me $10,000 cash, and I'm still going to say I like Iverson better than him. But uh, I'll go AI. I'll go AI. Okay. But yeah. Austin, it's been a while since I've seen you. Savion Jones to Jack. Great pass rusher and has the athleticism to play Jack. That way, strong defensive ends for Williams and Womack. You don't have to worry if unprotected transfers will pan out at edge. I like the thought process. I do. I just think, I don't view Savion the same type of player as like BJ, right? Because I think when you watched Ojolari play hand in the dirt, defensive line, I think everybody, when they watched him play that role, we knew that that wasn't what he was destined to play. You could look at him play and be like, that is a standing jack type of athlete, not your traditional end. Savion Jones is not quite as clear, him being a standing jack. Uh, but yeah, and I do think there is a little bit of room for Savion to grow as a pass rusher as well. He did finish with more sacks than Ali Gay. But yeah, I like your thought process, especially if Ovie and Swinson don't give you what you think you got as a jack. But yeah, going back to this, it's good to see you again, Austin. I'll end on this. Once again, you can super chat here at the end and we'll keep going. All right, Tari, I'm really enjoying these $5 super chats. I like talking NBA, I really do. But at some point, I gotta get ready for tomorrow. I got an early wake up call tomorrow. I used to argue with people with Steph culturally ruin the game of basketball at all levels, and they wouldn't listen. Well, you almost ruined NBA discourse by saying Iverson was souped up Monte Ellis. And Monte Ellis was a good player. Like, come on. I mean, we're better than this. We are better than this. But yes, so I'll share this story. There's a player in the NBA by the name of Daniel Gafford. Okay. He played at El Dorado High School, and he is a center. So he's one of the last traditional bigs. And I know Daniel is a great kid, and love him. But when he was in high school, the Steph Curry stuff was just so popular that I would go see Daniel play in high school. And I only saw him a few times, but they would jack it up from 40 feet. And I was like, wait, we've got a 5-star post player. He will dunk it every time if you throw it down to him. And the Steph Curry stuff was just so big that the people just like to let it fly. They like to let that sucker rip. And there was no shot clock. You could have waited as long as you can to get a post pass down there. But now you gotta let it rip. You gotta let that sucker rip. But yeah, that's it. Like, and you'll see it you'll see it like just in pickup now, right? So yeah, it's very, very, very interesting. So But is the NBA worse now than it once was? I don't know if it's worse. Obviously, it evolved. I don't think Steph is the sole proprietor of that. I do think, yeah, there it is kind of beautiful to go back and watch like mid-range jumpers actually be a thing, right? And I know the Jordan highlights are all him, layups and all of that, and he shot over Russell, he shot over Elo, and the North Carolina shot in New Orleans, right? Those are the only mid-range jumpers you ever see. But that was Jordan's game. He was a mid-range assassin. That's what he did 90% of the time. You just don't see it in the highlights. And a lot of it was that, right? It was what Carmelo did. It was what Patrick Ewing did. It was Tim Duncan, the bank shot off the glass. But yeah, it wasn't just Steph. It was Nash changed a lot of the NBA, Steve Nash, and then Dirk Nowitzki, took what Arvydas Sabonis brought to the league, and Drazen Petrovic and all those guys. There's a lot of influences that changed the game to a more perimeter-oriented thing. So, Kevin Durant, and now we got 7'3" Kevin Durant coming into the NBA next year. So there you go. Now, here's the good news. Tomorrow, LSU's Pro Day will happen, and hopefully everybody runs a 4.1 40-yard dash. So yeah, big shout out. Who was our top super chatter tonight? I think it was let's check the poll question. We haven't done a good job checking the poll question here. Defensive line dominated the poll tonight. I think our top super chatter tonight was Aaron and Jordan, I believe. I don't have the metrics just right in front of me. I wish it showed me everybody's super chats. Big shout out to Dr. Kara for joining our PHL Patreon. She has herself a Mason Smith card. Congratulations to you. And yeah, pretty excited. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. So I'm looking at every single one of you that's not a patron. Check it out. Patreon.com/LSU football. Don't forget Power Hour LSU merch, powerhourlsu.com. If you really love me and if you really want to support me, okay, answer all these questions, this live chat community, go join the Patreon. I spent 2 days working on a quarterback mechanical breakdown. It is all there for you. Patreon.com/LSU football. And tonight, we are doing, okay, bison taco soup. Don't knock it till you try it, baby. Let's go. Let's go.